What's up? Good morning, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. PB here with week 24. Lots to cover today. For those of you watching live, welcome. For those of you watching back on recording and or clips, appreciate you joining me and appreciate your support lately. Yesterday, a combination of my posts had a nearly 80,000 views. Pretty excited about that. Doesn't match up with what happened a couple of weeks ago with a couple of 100,000 or just under a couple 100,000. So really pleased with that. Love the support, the back and forth. Wish it would be a little bit more respectful. Yesterday I was called names that I never thought were possible that I would be called because of the Stephen A. and Lakers situation or LeBron situation. So today we're going to talk about the late trade last night that broke, and I've become a huge Raider fan now. I'm a Lions fan, number one, first and foremost in my heart as a lifelong Detroiter. Uh, but with Brady going to the Raiders and a complete remake of that franchise, that's my number two. Not going to lie. They've moved up into number two. I love what they've done with Brady. And the Geno Smith trade, I'll get into that. My top 10 mock 1.0, there will be two of them, 1.0 and 2.0. I don't have like seven mock drafts, and I'm not going to bore you with 11 through 32 either. But 1 through 10, mock number one. We'll highlight other nuggets and a couple of other players and then Lions fans who I really hope they get at 28. NFL free agency starts on Wednesday. My thoughts on the Lions and what I think, hope, and expect them to do. And then kind of a recap a day later, now that the dust has settled with LeBron and Stephen A. and some of the aftermath. More thoughts on that as a day has passed. So on the Raiders, and I'm on record. If you follow me, you see it on all throughout my feed, my page, etc about my now affinity for the Raiders and certainly Brady. Just take a look. Honestly, just take a look at what's happening with the organization. Hasn't been able to get it right for a very long time. Let's just look at the last 10 years. It's been a bit abysmal. It's just been completely, like in a maze and hitting a wall at every turn, no matter what was tried. And organizationally, they have fixed that. And the number one way, in my opinion, that they fixed that was putting Tom Brady in charge. Folks, make no mistake about this. He is not only a 5 or 10% minority owner, he is running the show and is involved in all the conversations behind the scenes. Now, he himself has said, I'm going to do Fox Sports or Fox NFL, and I'm going to work very closely behind the scenes with the Raiders to build those. And I enjoy the opportunity to be involved in the game basically for the rest of my life. And I'm paraphrasing as to what he said. Guys, if you follow Tom Brady's career, if you're from Michigan like I am, if you watched him at Michigan, if you've just studied the guy, he doesn't get into anything softly. It's just not his makeup. If you don't think that I went back and forth with quite a few people, he brought in Spytech, who he knew from Tampa Bay, and they're on the same wavelength. So John Spytech is at the front of this, and it appears that he's making those decisions. But if you think that he's not talking to Tom Brady on just about every single transaction, particularly of this magnitude, to trade for Geno Smith, who you do not have a contract in place with, and he's potentially looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of 32 to 40 million dollars a year. If you don't think Brady's involved in that, that's just nonsense. Mark Davis made it very clear he welcomed Brady into the whole headquarters. It was all the fans and everything. Tom Brady is running the Raiders. Period. All right, so we got that out of the way. As far as Geno Smith, well, first of all, Pete Carroll, again, great move. Chip Kelly, that surprised me, but truly talented guy. Hopefully that can work for them. Pete Carroll was the perfect bridge and come in there, bring respectability, get them back to being competitive, get them back to being relevant, and representing the logo and the black and silver as it once was. And when you look at it further, they are in Vegas now, and brand new stadium, couple of 2, 3 years old, whatever it is. Vegas is a destination for tourists. It's going to become a destination for players to go there and play. Mark my words. It is the entertainment capital of the world. And this is just a perfect fit for Brady. And it's a perfect fit for guys that want to go there and have success. It's not there yet, but it's building and increase your profile. There is no better way to do that in Vegas. Vegas is truly, hey, the Vegas Knights, it's been a very nice story, but the NHL can't compare to the NBA or the NFL in terms of popularity, in terms of the nature of the brand and how it is transcended around the globe. And so this is the perfect setup. So Pete Carroll was the right guy to get Brady's involvement or now tenure launched and started in the right way and execute the vision from up top. Mark Davis is basically kind of stepped aside, given over basic president of football operations, essentially, is what Brady is. So great move on Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly, solid. All right. So Geno Smith. I think what we are all about to see is something I knew when I watched him at West Virginia. I saw a lot of this too. He's a late bloomer. I think we can all agree with that. But I think Geno Smith is better, has still more ability than we have seen yet. I don't think he's hit his ceiling. I really don't. Why does this make sense for the Raiders to go take a 34-year-old guy who hasn't, lit up sheets and all this type of stuff? Oh my gosh, why would we do this? 74-year-old coach, 34-year-old quarterback. We're rebuilding with a 34-year-old. He's probably got a solid 3 to 5 left. So, what better bridge to get you from where you are to where you need to go while looking to acquire, draft, and develop a player underneath him? It's the perfect situation. Then, when you take into consideration his relationship and familiarity with Pete Carroll, they are extremely, extremely close. And Gino credits Pete Carroll for really helping change and help mold him and shape him as a man, as a quarterback, as a leader, all of those things. So versus a guy like Sam Darnold, talent aside, and who's better or who's worse, the fit, the comfortability, just kind of hit the ground running is Geno Smith all day over a guy like Sam Darnold. It just makes all the sense in the world. From a talent perspective, I'm not a big Sam Darnold guy, and I haven't been a big Sam Darnold guy. Once in a while, basketball fans, you can look at a guy like Jeremy Lin as an example. There are guys that can have a moment or moments, and then there's guys that have the consistency and the sustainability at the highest level that makes you competitive, and then you're trending upward while you're being competitive. I don't believe that Sam Darnold has that ability. Is Geno Smith, light years ahead of him? No, I don't think that. But again, the fit is right. Geno is a solid guy. He's very mobile like Darnold, and Darnold is probably more mobile than people give him credit for. Geno is mobile, and I had a friend point that out to me actually this last season about how mobile Geno really was, and I paid a little bit more closer attention to it. It's like, all right, so you got the parting of the seas, and he's just going to take the ball and run. So, great leader, experienced, can shoulder this, can take the Raiders into the new era. So I just think it's a hell of a move. And the talk about Rodgers coming there, like, why would you do that? Now, you might say, well, Brady was 40 whatever, and he had success in his 40s. Why can't Rodgers have success in his 40s? This is far and away the better move, in my view. Take the 34-year-old guy who has the familiarity. He can make every throw. He's solid, and he hasn't always had a supporting cast around him, particularly at the offensive line. You can talk Lockett and Jigba and Metcalf and Kenneth Walker. You could say different guys like that, but it's more than that. You have to have an offensive line. You have to have a system. You have to have a philosophy, and it has to be able to mesh. and then execute it. Everything looks good on paper and in theory, but in practicality and actually the ability to execute it are two different things. And I think you're going to see him execute with the Raiders. And if you want to go a step further, his relationship with Carroll is fantastic. How about the mentoring of Tom Brady, who's going to be around? And I going back to Tom Brady, I look it. He said what he said at the end of the year. I didn't get into NFL on Fox for 1 year, and I'm just going to disappear. And I plan to do this for a very long time. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't understand how he's going to be in the booth with Fox when the team he has built or helped building and is a part owner of and not be there. I don't see it. There's needs for him there, and his value is exponential, being very there. He cannot be reachable. He has rules in his contract where there's certain things he has to stay away from. So you think if he's on a Wednesday pre-gaming, and prepping for Sunday's game, he really can't pay attention to the Raiders. So I just see that as a conflict, not only in what the terms are, but just common sense. I just think it's a conflict. And if we don't think that that guy is not going to be fully involved, it's crazy. So I think this is a great move for Gino. That is a lot of money, but Sam Darnold's demanding a lot of money. Kirk Cousins has mastered that for years. I don't know too many quarterbacks ever who were not of an elite level but somehow came away with some of the craziest money ever. So, good for Gino to make that money. And honestly, the Raiders don't have a whole lot of choices that make any more sense than that. So the money is the money, and they have it slotted. And I would expect the Raiders to build out from here. Now, when I get into the mock here in a little bit, I think you'll be a little bit surprised in terms of who I have the Raiders taking. There's a lot of people that want them to go offense. Let's go get DK Metcalf. One guy said, "Let's get DK Metcalf. Let's get Lockett, and let's get Giante, and with Brock Bowers and Geno Smith. Oh man, who's going to stop us? Well, who you going to stop? Is the greater question. You want to lose 38-34 every game or 38-31 every game? I mean, what did you accomplish? So all right, let's get into the mock. I'll circle back to the Raiders when I get to their pick here in a little bit. So the top 10 picks that I'm going to give here is my mock 1.0 of 2.0, as I said. The 2.0 will come out more closer to the draft, which is a little over a month away. So the picks that I'm going to give is what I would take, not my it's not a top 10 highest talent. It is a combination of who I would take and then looking at what the needs are of that team and who I think they will take, and it slash who I think is the best person for them at their spot based on need and not necessarily based on hype or what other mocks say. This is a little bit unconventional, I'll say that. So I think that Tennessee has got to take Travis Hunter at number one. His upside in not necessarily a dual role, but the ability to bring him in, and he's been interviewed for both. Teams have interviewed him as a wide receiver, people have interviewed him as a defensive back. So I think there's flexibility there to even potentially start one way and transition to another if need be, not necessarily play both sides of the ball in any kind of full-time capacity or like a Deion Sanders was a type of thing. It could be situationally, but I think it'll end up being pretty much one or the other with a couple select in there. I just think the dude is a great, great, great talent, and I think it's just Tennessee is I don't look at Will Levis is probably not the answer, but I don't think, and I never understood drafting quarterbacks that you don't feel really, really, really good about, and that just don't seem like they translate well. Just because you have the number two pick, or the number four pick, or the number three pick, doesn't necessarily mean you go ahead and stretch and take the quarterbacks that are there because they're there. There are other years, there are other guys coming down the pike that might make more sense. There are also guys later on in a draft like a Quinn Ewers or some others that might make sense to do where you don't have to stretch, where you can take something that is take a player that is an instant, I mean, an instant impact guy. And I think Travis Hunter is an instant impact guy. I really do. And then you can make up for that a little bit later and acquire volume versus say one guy. If you stretch to take one guy and you make a mistake with that one guy, and boy, the Cleveland Browns know that well for so many years. I mean, we could go through all the Johnny Manziels and the Tim Couches. There are so Achilles Smith, so many guys. Not Dante Culpepper, Jamarcus Russell. Dante Culpepper still had a lot of success in the league. So many guys that you stretch for. Why stretch? Why stretch? Get yourself that instant impact player, a game changer. You should be getting a game changer at 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. No problem. So don't stretch for the quarterback, Tennessee. Take Travis Hunter. Now, you might think, okay, this is contradicting. At number two, Paul's going to suggest Cleveland take a quarterback. Yes, I am. And he is who I believe is going to be the best quarterback in this draft. And I think the guy's got the moxie, he's got the toughness, he has the pedigree, he has the coaching. Say what you want about Lane Kiffin, but the man is a innovator. He's a master at being different. And I think guys that come through under his tutelage, it's just a little bit different. Okay, there's some other guys that are like that, some other coaches that are like that. I think he's one of them. Jackson Dart should be number 2 to the Browns, in my opinion. I believe he's better than any other quarterback on the board, and that's your guy, Browns at number 2. Is he, a typical 2? No, he's not. Is he an automatic that he's going to be great? No, I don't believe either of that. But that franchise is in complete disarray. The Deshaun Watson thing, and I used to be a huge, huge guy, huge supporter of Deshaun Johnson. That was a ridiculous trade. That was ridiculous money. Then when the guy did what he did, um, that has essentially been proven, you further made the issue worse by committing to him. Then he gets injured. You just got problems all over. So it's basically take the hit on the books. They restructured Watson's contract to make sense to be able to keep him, but I would look to just you got to move on. Nobody's going to want him. There's no value there. Who knows if he's going to? Guys had so many injuries pre pro and then during pro. It's like it's just done. So Jackson Dart at 2. Okay, so the Giants. You might think, all right, Giants. Who they got? Tommy DeVito. Who else they got? I don't even know. I don't even know who they got. They must have to draft a quarterback, right? No, I'm not going to say the Giants at 3 are taking a quarterback. The Giants at 3 have an opportunity to take their modern era version of LT. It's Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, you can argue that should go 2. You can even argue that he should go 1. If I'm the Giants, I'm taking Abdul Carter. I'm not taking Cam Ward. I'm not taking Shador Sanders. I'm not falling down into that hole. I am getting a difference maker. He's a model. He's a mini me, if you want to call him a mini me. He's a duplicate, let's say, of a Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons changes the game on every single play. An entire offense is predicated and prepared to defend or to scheme against him as the defender. He changes everything. And I think you're going to see Abdul Carter, provided that the medical reports suggest that what he has is not anything long term. He's your pick, Giants. Don't go stretch for a quarterback. Not at 3. Not when you have the opportunity to take a guy like that. So retracing 1 through 3. Travis Hunter 1 to Tennessee, Jackson Dart 2 to the Browns, and Abdul Carter, as I said, to the Giants at 3. The Patriots. All right, you've got your quarterback, or you believe you have your quarterback. You better give him the protection he needs. And I think Will Campbell's that guy. He's a beast, 6'6". He's played left tackle, but he can move around. And they've talked to him about moving around. And I think he can go to guard, whatever they see fit, or try it out in both ways. And injuries always happen, and He has, I think, the ability to be flexible in that regard. So you've got to get Drake May the protection. Traditional or conventional thinking might be, oh, let's go get an offensive weapon. Let's give him something immediately to support Drake May. No, build from the trenches out. Offensive line back and wide, defensive line out. Build everything around those. It doesn't matter if you have a great running back if you don't have an offensive line to protect. If you have a great quarterback or somebody you think is a great quarterback, if you can't protect the guy, you're stunting his growth. It's not sexy. It's not a sexy pick. If you're a Lions fan and you remember Panay Sewell being taken so early, a lot of people are like, oh, everybody wants the flashy name. How are we feeling in Detroit now about Panay Sewell, right? So you've got to be able to have a plan to get and uncover impactful players later in the draft offensively. So you could look at a Bill Belichick guy. You take a guy like Aaron Hernandez back in the day, Gronkowski. Those aren't like late guys, but you've got to find those diamonds later on. It's there. Okay, there's plenty of guys that you can get. Don't stretch. So Will Campbell to the Pats. Now the Jags, this is not necessarily who I think they should take. I just have a feeling they're going to take him. And I think he's an all world talent. And I think he's set up to be one of the greatest players at his position ever. But again, it matters situationally who it is that's throwing the ball to you, who's protecting, scheme, philosophy, all of that. I have a feeling, especially with Evan Ingram being cut, that the Jags are going to go Tyler Warren. And he's a beast. This guy can legit do everything. I think Tyler Warren goes to the Jags. All right, Raider fans. Okay, so you're saying, all right, we need a quarterback. Yeah, we got Geno Smith, but who's the quarterback of the future? We're going to take Cam Ward. We're going to take Shador Sanders. No, absolutely 100%. I can tell you from being from Michigan as well. Mason Graham is your pick at 6 for the Raiders. The dude is not even topped. He's not even not even at a ceiling yet. He has tremendous upside and can be a disruptor on the defensive line. And the Raiders are suspect at best at defense. It's a combination of things. Again, so you talk about Will Campbell on the offensive line. In the past, you talk about Panay Sewell. It's not a sexy pick at 6. You say, all right, that's Ashton Giante, and let's prepare our future. No, guys, don't stretch. And I'll get to who you can take that I think actually might be, all right, we'll call him just below him. I'll get to who that is in a minute that you could get with your second round pick at 37. 37 is when the Raiders take their second spot. The Jets, again, Detroit guy I am. I understand Aaron Glenn. I understand his philosophy. I understand what this guy understands in order to be successful. And you've got to change the game from the trenches. And I think he's going to do that. I think, and this dude again, Jalen Walker from Georgia on the edge. I think a lot of upside with the proper system, and I think the Jets will be defensive minded. There'll be a combination of what Aaron Glenn's personality is to build great defense and to also have supportive offense. But I think it's a defense first philosophy, and I think that's a solid pick for them. Um, so to recap, one, Travis Hunter to Tennessee. Two, Jackson Dart to the Browns. Three, Abdul Carter to the Giants, kind of being their next LT. Will Campbell from LSU to the Pats at 4. Tyler Warren, little surprise pick there to the Jags at 5. I just have a feeling they're going to do that and give Trevor Lawrence that, especially after moving Evan Ingram. Mason Graham from Michigan to the Raiders at 6. Jalen Walker to the Jets at 7. So that brings us to Carolina, the Saints, and the Bears rounding out the top 10 at 8, 9, and 10. All right, Carolina at 8. You've got lots of issues over there. Bryce Young, or what it was, Andy Dalton, running for their life. They need offensive line help. Again, they've got so much talent deficiencies on the outside. Adam Thielen is a possession guy. Let's just get that clear. They don't have any game breakers explosively at wide receiver. You might think, oh, let's take it. No, don't take a stretch. Protect your future quarterback. And I think they can do that with Calvin Banks Jr., offensive lineman from Texas. Dude, dude is a baller. He's a beast, beast. And again, another guy who I think has not reached his full potential. Any guy, any college guy, you hope has not reached their full potential. But I think there's just more and more upside for him in the proper scheme, the proper coaching. So Calvin Banks to Carolina. All right, this one might surprise some people. Uh, I'm not a believer. The Saints at 9. Um, Kellen Moore over there, kind of the last possible, the last possible person they could get as coach. A lot of people don't want to go there. All due respect to Mickey Loomis, but there's not a lot of people that want to play for that organization anymore. But I can see this happening. Derek Carr is not the guy for more than I think he's signed for 2 more years. Um, and I was actually surprised that they chose to get behind him and keep him. I actually think that Cam Ward is going to slip here. I think Cam Ward might slip this far, and I could see the Saints taking him at 9. And it would actually make some pretty good sense if you were to slip that far. There's value there. I think Cam Ward is obviously I have him the second quarterback off the draft. I think Cam Ward has a lot of upside. I think he's got a lot to prove yet. Again, I don't think he's an absolute grand slam home run, no risk guy. I think there's a lot of risk there. And the Miami Hurricanes is probably the number one or number two team in college I watched the most all this past year. And I was a huge proponent of him. Some of the picks I gave out were massive overs on his touchdowns, on his yardage, on team total points for the Canes. Guy's got ridiculous talent. He can throw the ball too quickly. He's got a lot of arm angles. He can release the ball. He had talent over there, Resrepo and other guys. I just think that he's probably a fit for the Saints. So I see him going 9 to the Saints. The Bears at 10. And I know all of us Lions fans, for different reasons, are chapped about Ben Johnson and the way he conducted himself. And it's just like the guy, the way he talks now, it's just, bro, say less. Okay? Just go build something first and go accomplish it before you start talking all the trash you're talking. Um, I don't think this should be their pick, but I think they're going to do it. And I think the Bear fans are going to go crazy with it. I think Ashton Giante is going 10 to the Bears. I have a feeling he's going to slip there. I don't think he's going to the Jags. I don't think he's going to the Raiders. I don't think the Jets and Aaron Glenn want him. I don't think Carolina is taking him. I don't think the Saints are taking him. I don't think up at the top, Tennessee, the Browns, the Giants, that doesn't make sense. The Pats, it doesn't make sense for what their needs are. So I see Giante slip into the Bears, and that's the top 10. So recapping: 1 to Tennessee, Travis Hunter; 2 to the Browns, Jackson Dart; 3, Abdul Carter to the Giants; 4, Will Campbell to the Pats; 5, Tyler Warren to the Jags. I just have a feeling they're going to do that. Jalen Walker to the Jets at 7. 8, Carolina gets Calvin Banks Jr. The Saints, again, Cam Ward. And the Bears, Giante at 10. Now, Raider fan, I'll probably get blown up about this. Raider fan at 6. Here's why you don't take Ashton Giante. I think that Travion Henderson is right there with the guy. I think Travion Henderson is an incredible blocker. He's explosive. He has insane hands. So everybody might say that is Giante. All right, so the Raiders are at 37. The overwhelming projected spot for Travion Henderson to go is somewhere between 28 and 32. So you say, hey, Paul, if the Raiders have 37th, how are they going to get him if he's projected at 28 to 32? Well, you have 3 6-round draft picks, Raiders, and there's other things you can do to jump up a bit. You could look at the Lions and what they did in some years past, where they jumped up and got a running back, or how they jumped up and they got Jamison Williams back from Alabama. I could see them doing this and getting back up to that from 37 to that 28 to 32 range. And I think you hit a grand slam. You have Mason Graham on your defensive line, and you have Travion Henderson at your running back. I mean, how can anybody dispute that? Whereas if you do it in the reverse and you take Giante at 6, and then you think to yourself at 37, Are you going to get, or 32 if you, move up to 28 to 32, are you going to get a Mason Graham type player? I'm not so sure about that. I'm taking Mason Graham at 6, and then I'm trying everything I can do to get at 37. If you feel like he's going to be there, if you feel like you got to move up, go get Travion Henderson. That dude's a stud. I think he's way underrated. I think he's off the radar for some reason. I'm not sure why, but and in the remember too. Look at who Ohio State played, please, and look at who Boise State played, please, uh, and look at the scheme of Boise State was all centered around Giante. If you took Travion Henderson, you put him on Boise State, he would do the same or more. So don't get it too twisted about the guy's numbers, and people want to compare him to Barry Sanders and all this type of stuff. Please, guys, he's not Barry Sanders. He might end up being a very good pro, but I don't think he's Barry Sanders in space like that. I just don't. But I do think that the Bears are gonna take him. I think Ben Johnson's gonna view him as a Jahmyr Gibbs type guy, which I wouldn't go that far either. But he does have great hands. He's great vision. He can hit the hole. He has some explosiveness to him. Is solid all around player. I just don't think he's the value there at 6 for the Raiders is where it should be. All right, Lions fans, and I'm gonna get to, well, you know what? Before Lions fans, everybody say, Paul, what are you doing? Shedeur Sanders. Why didn't you put Shedeur Sanders in the top 10? I'm on record as saying this too. I do not think that Shedeur Sanders should be drafted anywhere before the 4th round. I have him basically at a 4th, 5th round pick, but you can stretch it and put him at in the 4th round. Why do I feel that way? Listen, Cam Ward has flaws. Jackson Dart has flaws. I get it. I get it. I don't see the upside with Shedeur Sanders as either of those two. I watched a lot of Colorado too, not as much as Miami, but I watched a lot of Colorado. And there's 2 parts to this, even 3 parts. Uh, Again, look at competition. Shedeur Sanders, my gosh, he holds on to the ball and dude's running backwards 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards. You can't even have that type of philosophy in the NFL. Bigger, faster, stronger. You're done, man. You got 3 seconds to get rid of the ball. If you think holding on to it, I mean, if you're scrambling forward or you're getting to the outside and you're looking downfield to get somebody the ball, that's one thing. If you think you can stand on a 3, a 5, or a 7-step drop and hold the ball like that in the NFL, it ain't happening. It's just not. And they played very subpar competition. And again, I watched him and it's like, all right, this guy, he's not a number 3 pick. He's not a number 2. He's not a number 7. And I just really think he's a 4th round talent. I even think there's really nowhere he can go, but I really think the guy should consider changing positions if I'm being totally honest, as like a punt returner or something. I suggested him as a potential slot and I got torn up on X. If you feel like you can develop him into that, and what you need to be in as a slot in the NFL is it's legit. It's not a joke. People say, you got your number 1, your number 2, and your slot, as if the slot is somewhere far down and it's easy to do. It's not. And I'm not saying that would work. What I am saying is, if you're going to draft this guy because he has certain tools and skills, and that he might be a better punt returner, kick returner, punt returner. I don't think he converts as an NFL significant prospect. And if you believe he does, which I think he can at 4 or 5, but I don't think he's any legitimate starter in the NFL. And you might say, well, there's only 15 to 17 quarterbacks that you could really say, man, we really got a, pretty good guy. And then you've got another 14 that it's this interchangeable, Ferris wheel of quarterbacks. I get that too. But I think that's more where he fits, is somewhere far down that line. So despite all of that, I think somebody's going to take a chance on the guy. And I have two teams here that I think will do just that. And part of it has to do with what happened last night. And part of it has to do with, I just don't think Kyler Murray is a NFL top level NFL quarterback too. Not a leader, not a studier of the game. That's all well known. He's more of a fantasy guy. He just can't sit back there and make the throws either. Even if you give him weapons, he still continues to struggle. I've talked to a lot of Arizona Cardinal fans, and they're like begging, wishing that the Cardinals would get rid of him. I could see the Cardinals at 16 getting him and moving Kyler Murray to the highest bidder. And then the one that probably makes the most sense, if you believe that he has the ability to lead a franchise, it's the Seahawks at 18. Now that you've done what you've done, um, again, I think that that's too high. I would not build my franchise around Shador Sanders, and I'll get called all kinds of names for that, and race will be brought into that. It has nothing whatsoever to do with it. His father came on a show this week. It was a podcast, and he pokes his head in and he says, "Who's the only person? Who's the only player getting hated on in this draft?" Talking about his son, and you make a decision to build your franchise around that guy. Let's look at the Giants as an example. If the Giants at 3, who need a quarterback, think that that's your guy, if the Jets, which I don't think, at 7, if you think that's your guy, you're going to put Shador Sanders and his everything that comes with him and his father, and you're going to go put him in the New York market. I mean, you're just asking. You're asking for issues. Multiple teams now have reported, at least one, but I think it's multiple, have talked about his arrogance and the way he conducts himself. And there's a lot to be said for that. If you're going to turn the keys of a franchise over to a college quarterback, you better be prepared of all that comes with that. And his and it's all changing, right? The portal and NIL and all of this. These guys are all coming in different than they would say 10 years ago. Um, I think that there's something there that he's not his own guy, and I don't think he has the ability to be his own guy. That might sound shitty, but that's how I feel. All right, so the Lions. I am in love with the prospects of this football player. And I think he's the perfect guy that fits the Lions mold. I think he's the perfect grit guy. I think he's the perfect attitude and intellect guy. UCLA, number 2, Femi. I know I'm going to mess up his name. Femi, which is short for Olafemi, Oladejo. All right. I think this guy is, again, he's a late learner. He's a late entry into the game had been developing and such, and you can see the upside. And in the right system, again, right system, right philosophy, just a Dan Campbell is a phenomenal leader, y'all. He's one of the greatest leaders we have ever seen in any sport. There is something about that man that people will go through walls for him. They will study, they will learn, they will grow, they will put team above man, they will put franchise above team. You listen to this man, Femi, my God, what an impressive guy. What a great attitude. What an impressive guy. You can tell he's a sponge. You can tell he's going to absorb. You can tell he's teachable, coachable, and that he wants to learn and that he wants to be very, very good, if not great. And I think it's a great fit. If I'm the Lions, I'm looking to maneuver around and make sure I get him. You're not going to give up the kitchen sink for him, but I think that that's a guy that you've got to figure out a way to get. You got to let the board come to you to a degree, but at the same time, you don't want to miss out on a guy like that. And with their needs, I think he fits absolutely, absolutely perfect. All right, guys and gals, a lot of gals following now too. I noticed, and really, really, really happy about that. So NFL free agency starts on the 12th, Wednesday, and it's going to be crazy. And obviously, this is part of what I do now, so I'm going to be involved in it heavy. And I think it's going to be crazy. It's going to be totally nuts. And I think there's a lot of teams waiting for it, not just for free agency, but I think they're waiting for it in terms of making moves, including trades. If you're a Lions fan and you understand that Aiden Hutchinson is not 100% to be a lock on game 1 to be the Aiden Hutchinson that we know. It is an injury that thankfully is not ligament related and it was bone related, so the chance of him healing and being right back to what he was is super high. But the timing of which, you saw him running this past week. If you saw him running and running sprints in the practice field, he's a ways away. and the season is literally 6 months away. Now, 6 months is a lot of time. It's 6 months since it happened, or whatever it is, and another 6 months. It's basically a year recovery, but it's going to take some time. So let's just assume for a moment that Aiden Hutchinson is 100%, and he is the ever evolving and ascending Aiden Hutchinson as he was. And let's look at the other side of the line, and let's look at Josh Pascal, who they invested a high pick for him. I'm not convinced that Josh Pascal is that guy. I don't think he's your starting end over on the other side. I think he's more of a filler guy, interchangeable type of part. The Lions need to be able to get pass rush from both sides and the middle. And Aleem McNeil, by the way, there's no guarantee that he's going to be back on time, which is a problem. So you have, at his level, it's going to take some time to get back to it. You have Hutchinson on the one side, you've got Aleem McNeil in the middle, and so what are we going to do about the other side? There's two major targets right now that have basically asked for out. And the Cincinnati Bengals never allow this. Mike Brown is historically really never does this. We've signed you. You're going to fulfill your contract. You're not going to tell us that you want out, and you're going to just stay here. I think a lot of that has changed over the last couple of 2-3 years as societal changes have taken place. Some of the owners have had to adapt to that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is. And they're not going to give him the money that he wants, and he wants out, and he's made that known. So he had success with the Saints, and he's had incredible success with the Bengals. And it's an under the radar type of success. He doesn't get a lot of publicity. And if you look at the guy's numbers, they're ridiculous. And I mean ridiculously as in good. 16, 17 type sack guy, a motor that doesn't stop. From all accounts, a great team guy, grit guy, constant hustle guy, a technique, sound technique over and over and over and over. And he's done it on, let's just call it, when he was with the Saints, it wasn't a great defense. Damn sure isn't a great defense in Cincinnati. And the guy is basically the number one defensive player that the offense is, or defensive player that the offense is scheming against. And dude still finds a way to get to the quarterback. And even when the quarterback's moving, Hendrickson is terrific in chase. It's not just, hey, it's a straight bull rush or it's a swim move or something, and I'm getting to the quarterback. It's when the quarterback moves, he's moving too, and he can still get there. So Trey Hendrickson is a terrific talent, 30 years old. He's looking for somewhere in the neighborhood, I believe, of 30 to 40 million a year. Man, even when I say words like that, it's like, at what point? Like, that's one player out of a 200 and whatever it is now, $46 million salary cap. It's like, holy smokes, that's a lot of money invested into one player of whoever it is. But anyways, that's his ask. And then the second guy that is clearly a target, and somebody said this to me, it's a pipe dream. Get over it. He was a Lions fan, or even does podcasting having to do with a Lions show. Said, just get over it. Max Crosby's gone now. Myles Garrett, Jimmy Haslam said he's not trading him, and he ain't going anywhere. I couldn't disagree more. The Browns fans are one of the most vocal set of fans in NFL history. They are not going to let Jimmy Haslam, who has basically blown up that franchise and made error after error after error after error, they're not going to let him get away with letting Myles Garrett sit out and have all that value waste when you can go get something for him right now and get parts, pieces, and high pieces for your team. You can find the guy all you want. He doesn't want to be there. And you almost can't blame the guy. Now, there's the old school of thought to me that says, especially as a former coach, that what you start, you must finish. But it's really hard to argue that he has no chance of winning there. It's just not going to happen. There's so many things wrong with the Cleveland Browns. And Myles Garrett is 28. I think he'll be around 29 when the season starts. He wants to move on. And somebody is willing to give up the goods for him. And Jimmy Haslam's going to be forced, but to have to make a deal. He's going to have to make a deal. So if you're asking me, all things relative, do I want Trey or do I want Miles? I want Miles Garrett. And the money is close to being the same. The what you have to give up for Miles is probably a round higher, a third for Hendrickson, probably a second for Garrett. But I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to give up that capital of either way, and I'm willing to give up that capital difference, partly because of the age, and partly because I think Miles Garrett is a click above Trey Hendrickson. However, either way, if I am a Lions fan and I talk about them a lot, the Lions have to get one of those two guys, y'all. They have to get one of those two guys. I don't believe that their window is short term as some others do. Many others are saying their window is 2 years. I don't believe that. They're constructed to be successful for the long haul, the long term. Does that mean that Jared Goff's going to be your quarterback in 10 years, or Jameer Gibbs is going to be your running back in 10 years, or Amara St. Brown or Laporta or any of the other guys? Jameson Williams, is going to be there in 10 years? No, but they're going to continue to reload, and they're on the right track now to be a consistent performer and a consistent competitor for many, 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 many years. So I don't agree that they have a 2-year window and oh my gosh, you got to throw the kitchen sink at it because you went to the NFC Championship, then you had a first round bye, and then you were one game from the NFC Championship again. And I could argue, and I have argued before, let me just throw this in there, that the performance of the Lions last year, this past season, was more impressive than the year before because of the challenges that they faced and basically an entire decimated defense. I mean, there are so few guys that even came close to finishing the season at the position they started. It's second tier guys, third tier guys, almost number one and number two on a depth chart in almost every position. So I don't believe you throw it all away now. And Brad Holmes he's a deliberate guy, he's a conservative guy, he's measured in his approach. He'll get aggressive when he needs to. It was aggressive to go get Jameer Gibbs when you did. That a lot of people saw that as risky. I didn't. I watched that dude at Alabama and he was legit. And again, coming out of a Saban program, you're just prepared for the next level. And he's gone now, but they were able to get him. Jameson Williams, you can argue the same thing to a degree. They rushed up, basically pushed up to get him. Same kind of thing, more of a developmental guy compared to Gibbs, and there's some attitude concerns and such. But I believe their window is long. Don't throw away everything to get Miles Garrett, but you still are in a window, and you've got to give yourself the best chance to win. And you could draft and develop a guy, but at to what extent and at what level are you fracturing your ability to win now? Don't do everything to win now, but my goodness, those guys, if you get back anything close to healthy, Hutchinson, McNeil, and one of those guys on the outside, where you at? Like legit, where you at? And I'm just gonna say this too: the Derek Barnes re-signing is so under the radar. I saw some of the people that I follow that are Detroit people talked about Derek Barnes, in some capacity, but the general person, the average fan, I don't think understands how important that was. That was a huge re-sign, and the money was right, comparatively speaking. So if you you're bringing your pieces back, we'll see what they do with Carlton Davis, right? That's not a done deal. I think they should resign him. That's my own personal opinion. I know money has to make sense, but you're not gonna acquire anybody that's gonna be better in this group than him at this time. I don't see that, and I'd love to see them do that. So if you bring back close to the semblance of what you have, and you have Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil back or close to their health, game one, game two, three, let's say the first 4 games of the year, and you have Trey Hendrickson to take some of that responsibility, or Miles Garrett, some of that responsibility and the load, right? The attention, and let those guys ease in. And then when you get them to where they're all at their peak, that this it's not it's unbelievable. Like it's just not even normal. That would be next level type of stuff. And I don't think you can ignore that. I think that Brad Holmes realizes it. I do. Now, there's lots of things you could do in the draft. There's other things you could do in free agency. Harold Landry, by the way, released might make sense for them, but that just is not of the same position and the same type of impact as those two guys. So it's for me, it is Miles Garrett as your number one target and Trey Hendrickson a close second. They end up with either one of those. Look out, NFL. Look out. And all this talk, my gosh, I've really followed the Bears too in this offseason. All this talk about Ben Johnson and the Lions are finished and all that. It's all BS, guys. When you're running a top flight organization, you understand that you have coaches that everybody else wants. But then as you understand that, and you know that those guys are ready to go to another team, you have already taken the steps. It's already in your mind even before they got the attention. Just like a roster, your second tier guy, next man up. Your third tier guy, next man up. Whether that's Shepard or Morton, who they brought from the outside, or a Hank Fraley, who have they retained. Antoine Randall left and went with Ben Johnson. But you're grooming all those guys to take those positions. So the Lions will be fine without Aaron Glenn, and they will be fine without Ben Johnson. It takes a minute to adjust, but they're going to be fine. All right. I got to revisit this from yesterday. I have I think over 90,000 views now. One particular post is, I think, right at about 70,000 now, and another 20 mixed around on some others. And that's related to, and I got to be honest, I didn't even know the full story that LeBron walked over to Stephen A during the game, during a timeout, which makes this all even more crazy to me. So Jason Whitlock, who many of you probably know, was on ESPN for a period of time, was on um, Fox Sports for a lot of years. Now has his own podcast, Fearless. He's of the opinion that guys like Skip Bayless and ESPN basically created an image of LeBron that caused him to be insecure, and that you can thank ESPN and Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith for creating this insecurity with LeBron James, and they basically are responsible. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to misquote Jason. I follow him closely and interact back and forth a lot. I don't want to misquote him, but generally speaking, I think that that's what he's trying to say, is that this insecure superstar was created by ESPN and other people. Jason, I can't disagree more. The for I will say that ESPN televising his high school games, I don't think that that's positive, and I don't think that's positive for any sport. And I didn't think it then, and I definitely don't think it now. It's gotten so far out of control. You're talking about a guy, me, who coached middle school players and high school players. It's like, and I have a really in-depth understanding of what that does to a young man, what that does to a team, what that does to an organization, what that can do to a school. And you have a guy like LeBron come through, the attention, the fame, all the stardom, all the expectation, all of that stuff isn't good. So from that standpoint, it's not good. But once he and it all right, and I got to be honest, I didn't know this either. Self-proclaimed chosen one, basically the self-proclaimed king. And other people say that other people named him the king. His Twitter or X handle says King James. So if LeBron didn't like that, he wouldn't go along with that. He views himself as the king of the league. He views himself as the greatest ever. He views himself as this unbelievable guy who's the greatest ever. And it's not even close. He's not only not the greatest ever, he's not the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the eighth, or even the 10th greatest ever. He is nowhere near Michael Jordan. He's nowhere near Kobe Bryant. It's not even close. I'm on record for all the reasons why. He has a tattoo on his upper back, shoulder blade area below the neck that says chosen and the number one. Did ESPN put that on him? Did ESPN create that? How about Stephen A, Skip Bayless, which I'm not a fan of either of those two guys, if I'm being honest. I'm not even a fan of ESPN, to be honest. I don't like a lot of what they do. They didn't put that on the guy. This was him, and 100% LeBron James. Did some of that maybe contribute to the hype? For sure. Absolutely. When he chose to go on with Jim Gray for the announcement and say, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, his management all Maverick Carter, all the people around him signed up for that. They didn't have to do that. He could have said no. He's his own man, right? That's his own team, right? This ridiculous narrative that somebody else created LeBron James is lunacy. This is who LeBron James wants to be. Now, as it relates to his son, or first of all, as it relates to Stephen A. So I got, again, called every name, a racist, a white pasty old man, lose your glasses, fat. I got called every name in the book. It's amazing what our world has come to, that we can't have discourse, we can't have dialogue, we can't have any type of disagreement without scorch earthing somebody. It's just totally uncalled for. LeBron James brought his son front and center. When you structure it to where the team you represent drafts your son because you think it's so cool and you think before you retire that it'd be amazing to play with your son, and then you do all the marketing together. You do all the marketing with the Lakers. You do all of the talk. You get on March 6th of 2023 while you're watching the NBA at 11:34 p.m. and you say, Bronny's better than many of these cats I'm watching on League Pass. Did ESPN do that? Did somebody hack his account and write that? That's LeBron James who wrote that. That's LeBron James and his team that pushed for Bronny James to go be with the Lakers as a second round pick. Nobody else wanted him prior to. And you could say the Golden State wanted him after. I'm not so sure about that it would have happened. Oh my God, he's lighting up the G League. Okay. Somebody else brought something to my attention. I thought contributing to one of my posts last night. I didn't even realize it. The last 4 MVPs of the G League, that's what we're talking about. I don't mean to go Allen Iverson here, but we're talking about the G League, ended up going to play in Europe. Now, there's stories like Pascal Siakam, Fred Van Fleet. There's some stories of guys that could come and do that. But Siakam's obviously a much bigger guy. Van Fleet, tremendous shooter, had a true definitive skill that could find somebody in the NBA could find use for. Bronny James does not have that, and I don't think he's going to develop that. But that's a basketball conversation for a different day, because none of this ended up being about basketball. This ended up being about LeBron walking away from the huddle to go confront a guest, a customer, a client at an Los Angeles Lakers game. He felt that that was the right time to go do that. When he can reach the guy anytime he wants, he could tell somebody, "Get Stephen A. I want to talk to him after the game," or "Get Stephen A." He knew Stephen A. was coming. That's no surprise. He didn't just look up and see him that he was going to be the first row. BS. And even if it was, where he didn't know it, I want to talk to him. He could go point to anybody he wants in that building. Send any of his people over there. Go talk to Stephen A. Tell him I want to see him in private after the game. Nah, LeBron James wanted that. He wanted that, folks. It's got to, so many people, listen, overwhelmingly people are against what LeBron did. It's not even close. If I had to guess on the percentage, it's 75-25, maybe 70-30. If you just look at the likes and the nasty comments, is like 300 and something likes to 20-25 nasty comments. So you tell me what that disparity is. It's not even close. And I don't think around the world, because I looked, at others, I don't. It's not universal. It's more universal support for Stephen A. Smith. Am I a huge fan of Stephen A. Smith? Do I think that everything that guy does is right? Do I not think that guy uh, wants the publicity? Yes, I do. I do think he wants all of that. Let's understand perspective, which is so important. And this is that is Stephen A.'s job. Stephen A.'s job is to bring eyeballs to a network, eyeballs to a story. Does he cross the line sometimes? Yes. When he said, "LeBron, please stop doing this to your son," I don't think he was attacking him as a father. I think he's basically saying, you're essentially humiliating yourself and you're humiliating your son, and you're bringing all this unneeded attention to the guy when he's not worthy of it. He's worthy of it because it's the last name on his last name on the back of his jersey. You brought the kid front and center. You brought him to the Lakers. You entered the game with him. You went and marketed with him. You went and told the world that Bronny's better than most of the league. You put him there. And Stephen A called you out for that. And Stephen A questioned that. And Stephen A basically said, you're kind of doing him an injustice from a he said, as a father, meaning, I think, in the context, because everybody wants to take things out of context that day, is as a father, look at what you're doing to the guy. You're basically reducing his chances, not increasing his chances, I think, is what he was trying to say. And I actually happen to agree with that. And I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith on most anything, to be honest. It's 80-20. That at 80, I don't agree, 20% I do. LeBron, you represent the Los Angeles Lakers. You're in your place of profession. You walk up and you confront a client. It's wrong. It's the wrong place. It's the wrong time, the wrong forum. Everybody's watching you. Cameras are everywhere. You know that. You're one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. You're the most popular basketball player in the world. Everybody's watching you, and you know it, which is why you did it. Stephen A. Smith, he came out and he said what he said after. It was ironic that exactly what he said at about 9 o'clock. I said at 7:58 yesterday, where I said, you make it known that you want to get a hold of Stephen A. Smith. If you don't have his phone number, somebody else does. Get in touch with him. Have the conversation on the phone if you want, or on the phone, request, I want to meet you face to face and I want to have a conversation with you. Let's do this behind closed doors. And then, I said that and Stephen A said that. And people are like, nah. If Stephen A. Smith can go out and talk about the man, then the man should be able to confront him. You're conflating the two. You can't, in my opinion, join the two. One is one profession, one is another. One is generally accepted to speak in these manner, and you're playing for an organization. It isn't. It just isn't the time. You don't walk up to somebody in the front row. I don't care who it is. Now, there's a lot. It isn't even like, and I said this yesterday. It isn't even like it's a one-time person you're never going to see again. It's a fan doing inappropriate things, saying inappropriate things, and you're never going to see that person again. You're going to see Stephen A. Smith again. You know the guy; he knows you. You could talk to him anytime you want. So this is what I just think is this is bad for society. And again, I think the rhetoric has gotten out of hands in all ways in life. The names that I was called yesterday, these people don't know me. They don't know what I'm about. They're insulting me, my family. So I'm on some small, minuscule level. I understand what these guys go through. I get it. But I also understand 52 years old myself and watched the greats, somebody much greater than him, many players much greater than him, go through the same things, the same identical type of things. Different, but identical in terms of you could view it as an attack. They understood that it came with the territory. You might not like it, but you knew that it was. You knew that it is. And if it's not something you can handle, you see this in Hollywood a lot. These people, they try to have families, they have no privacy, they can't do it anymore, so they leave. If you feel like you can't take that, then maybe it's time to do something else. It's just a machine. It's going to keep going. Again, it's not always right. Um, it's not always easy. These guys can't go to a mall. They can't go to a show. They can't walk down the street without full blown security. You even look at the guys when they come out of. There's nobody in particular. Well, actually, it is. It was Draymond and Steph Curry and some of the Golden State Warriors coming out of the hotel, and there's security lining all around them. So I feel for these guys in that they have no privacy. They basically have no personal life. But when you exacerbate it, all right, and you're a high level guy, high affluent player in the league, and you're very successful, and you're a global star and superstar like LeBron James, and you further do things like you do that bring more attention to you, the barbershop, the politics, the flopping, the wearing. By the way, did ESPN and Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith make him wear 23? Who wore 23? Who's the greatest ever in that sport that wore 23? You wear 23, You feel like on some kind of level you want to be him. And he made it very known. He wanted to be the greatest ever. The flopping, the nonsense circus with his son, the political stuff, the barbershop, the China stuff. The list is ring chasing, talent chasing, back and forth. The announcement. This guy did it to himself. And the sad part is he's 40 and he's still doing it to himself. He thinks he's bigger than the game. He thinks he's beyond reproach. He thinks all those that paved the way for him, that in some kind of way, he's n- not in the same category. He is. Let me just run this down for you real quick. Isaiah Thomas did some things, and man, they went after him, the media back then. How about Michael Jordan? His baseball career, his father, his gambling. How about guys like Charles Barkley, let's just say? How about guys like Phil Mickelson and his life and his gambling and his association with somebody who a lot of people don't think the best of? How about Magic Johnson and HIV and leaving the game? How about Magic Johnson and Isaiah and Mark Aguirre kissing each other on the cheek? If you don't think, young people, if you don't think this has not been around for years and years and years, you're mistaken. This is not an attack on LeBron James. LeBron James signed up for something that brings this type of spectacle and in a manner that I can't recall ever. And I follow sports super, super close, obviously. I can't recall too many players bringing more attention to themselves in a way that would create more problems than him. I don't think Michael Jordan did things like intentionally to bring more attention to himself. I don't think, Larry Bird and Magic and Kareem and Kobe. Kobe did what he did. I almost forgot. I said it in the show yesterday. Kobe did what he did with the gal in Colorado. He brought that on himself and basically ruined his brand and had to rebuild his brand and changed his number from 8 to 24. Had his feud with Shaq. Guys, this is not new. It's just LeBron never learned how to handle this. And that's on him. That's not on Jason Whitlock. That's not on ESPN. That's not on Skip Bayless. That's on LeBron James. You put your son front and center for the world to just basically pick apart. I think that Stephen A was saying as a father, why are you doing that? He's got a point. He has a point. You could have said, let my son just do his thing. Let's watch Tiger Woods and what he does with his son Charlie. Because his son Charlie is already incredibly skilled, 15 years old. What was your son at USC when you really started propping him and pushing him forward, LeBron? Was he 16? Was he 17? Let's watch how Tiger. You want to talk about another guy? How about another guy? I almost forgot. Who's been more scrutinized than Tiger Woods? Now he tried to do what he tried to do behind the scenes with nobody knowing. He didn't always do it front and center. He got exposed for things he was doing behind. You think Tiger Woods took some hits? You think Tiger Woods learned? I think Tiger Woods learned a lot. And hey, LeBron, maybe you ought to call Tiger if you haven't. Maybe he can help you. Maybe he can help you change some things. And instead of playing the victim, instead of walking around and woe was me and confronting people on a court like that, there's some ways you could have handled it better. It went viral. I see enough people out there to say, man, you have a lot of influence on a lot of people. Rightfully or wrongly, you do, and people follow you and they follow what you do. It's just a really bad example to set. You're not the only one who does it. Other people who do it have done it. And I just think that when you get to that, in that spectrum and in that genre, whatever you want to call it, that fame, that status, that everything, it's incumbent upon you to conduct yourself in a certain way. And when you make a mistake, own it because we're all human. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Own your shit, dude. Just stop blaming everybody else and stop making it about you because you're not bigger than the world. You're not bigger than your maker. You're not bigger than the other team. You're not bigger than Stephen A. You're not different than the rest of us in that regard. So this thing, I don't think it's done. I think you're going to see more of this come out. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of this type of thing because we live in this society. Well, I'm going to go confront him because if I don't confront him, I'm not a man. You can have the conversation with the guy. You just don't have to do that front and center. People, oh, Stephen A. Smith's doing it front and center. Why can't LeBron? Again, that's what his role is, and you already know that going in. You already know it. Every single guy I told you, there were way more people, or as much anyway, more people, um, or people in general that did it with the other guy. It didn't just start, LeBron. They didn't just chosen one. They didn't just choose you to do this. And you keep on doing things and bringing it to the forefront, they're going to keep talking about it. You pull it back a little bit, they're going to talk less about it. They might question it. Why is he doing it? Let them question it. So you choose to live a little bit different way. When you go in your birthday party and you start dancing, like that, and you got champagne in your hand and it goes viral, you know that's going to happen. If you don't like to be scrutinized, then don't go do that. I know people are going to call me names. I don't like it. Doesn't feel good. It's not kind of. It is very sad to hear the things I was called yesterday, and I can't say them all. I don't want to say them. I can say them all. I don't want to say them all. Really, really bad. And I'm just this, but I know that what I'm doing can provoke some of that, and people tend to disagree and hide behind the screen. They're going to call you all kinds of names because that's just the easy thing to do. I don't like it, but it is. And if I don't want it to happen, if it bothers me, I'll stop. And I won't be public like this. This is going to be seen by, probably hundreds of thousands of people over a certain period of time. We'll see. But it's out there and it's going to be out there forever. So enough of the nonsense. And I just wish as a culture and as a society that we wouldn't tear people down. I'm going to just close with this. And I don't mean to lecture here, but I've recently went through something in my life that I'll speak to a little bit at a future date. And it's like the vengeance and the evil within people to hurt others is at an all-time high. The things that people will say and the things that will people will do to tear down somebody who is working hard or is attempting to be successful, it is beyond disgusting. It's repulsive. Where we lost our way in life over time, that when we see somebody successful or attempting to be successful, that we encourage them, that we help them, that we go work by them side by side and do to others as you wish done to yourself. I think, that was taught to me almost every day as a young person. And I make mistakes. I've made a lot of them and I'll continue to make mistakes. But I don't look at people around me and knock them for trying something. I don't knock them for doing something status quo for sure because I'm a person who likes to try things. I don't like regrets. Now there's a limit to it all, but just just to keep it straight and in the lane of people got to find a way to treat each other better. And social media is a big, big, big part of that. It's gotten out of control, and I don't even know if it can ever be brought back to the realm of sanity and kindness. Hug someone. This is a phrase I say a lot. Hug someone, hold someone, love someone. That means something to you. And even people from afar. You see somebody on the street and they drop something, pick it up. Pick it up, help them. I was on an airplane recently and the lady couldn't get her bag. I helped her with her bag. I mean, it's like we've just become numb. I don't mean to go on some tangent here, but we've become as a society, we've become numb that what we say and what we do and how we act not only reflects and affects us and those closest to us, it can affect others. And it's just unhealthy. It's not good. And people are intentional a lot of times with these actions. And when the time is right, I will disclose what has transpired in my life. And I think it will blow a lot of people away. I might even write a book about it someday, and I might name names. We'll see. I don't know if I'll go that route, but to some degree, people will know some things that have happened more recently in my life and how it got there and how it took a life of its own and how truly hateful people can be. It's a travesty. And I think that that's what we saw unfold and go viral yesterday is this belief that we have to act a certain way and and it's out of control. That's just my opinion. So don't mean to end that on a negative note. I just hope that everybody, and I try to remind myself of this when I come on this and I speak about other things and teams and who I would draft and who I wouldn't, the reasons that they would or wouldn't. I try to keep it to a line, man. I want viewers too. I want eyeballs too. I'm trying to build a brand here. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we have to go abuse things and people. It's just wrong. Let's all work to do better. We all can. We certainly can. One of the greatest ever, Lou Holtz, one of the greatest motivators ever, used to say this a lot. It's easy to be kind, and I'm paraphrasing. It's basically easy to be kind. It takes actual work to be nasty or to be hurtful or hateful or spiteful or vengeful. All of those are not good. They're toxic, right? So I try to remind myself a lot, and sometimes emotion gets in the way, and sometimes emotion gets carried away. And that's if I'm giving the guy, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. LeBron got defensive of his son, whether he created it or he didn't. That's an emotion. He got emotional. And when we let those types of emotions bubble up and boil over, usually good doesn't come from it. There's good emotion and there's bad emotion. There's positive emotion and negative emotion. I think we saw bad negative emotion instead of the alternative. So I hope that somebody who hears this, there's quite a few people watching live now, and people that watch it on recording, today, tomorrow, in a week, in a year. I hope this reaches somebody, and I will cut the clip to get this out because maybe on some small level I can make a difference as a coach, as a business owner, as a camp host, the things that I tried to do. My goal was always to help one, and if I helped one, I could help five. If I help five, I can maybe help 50. If I help 50, I can maybe 500, 1,000, thousands. And I've had the ability or had the blessing really to be able to do that over time, and I hope to continue to do that. This is one of the newer forms that I'll be doing that. And so I look forward to continuing to do that. So let's tamp it down some. Let's have some fun. Let's have discourse. We can agree to disagree. We can disagree, but we can do that respectfully. And I appreciate those yesterday too, by the way. And I talked about some of them. I had a device here, and I was reading some of them to you. Some of them were very kind. They give their position. I give my position. You agree to disagree. Say you have some fun banter back and forth. You say, "Man, I'm going to save that post and come back and get you." In a nice way. You say that, and just man, it's gotten crazy. Tone it down. It's a bad example. People watch what we do. People watch what we say as we get older. They're looking up to us to do the right thing or looking up for the right thing to do or what to do. So let's think about that. Let's think about the example we set for our young people and the people on our left, the people on our right, the people sitting next to us in a plane or in a grocery aisle or wherever in this forum, in this format. All right. This was fun. Please, if you wouldn't mind, please follow me here on X. Follow me. It's at PB Sports Talks. Follow me on Facebook on my PB Sports Talk page at PB Sports Talk. That one does not have an S. Um, we'll have the regularly scheduled 10 a.m. show on Saturdays going forward. Obviously, draft time is going to kick up a notch. We'll have more shows that pop throughout the week. You can expect to see a lot of smaller clips here coming forward. When things that go viral like yesterday happen, um, Geno Smith to the Raiders was not to that degree, but that happened later. And of course, the Stephen A. LeBron things, I'll pop in and give some takes that I think are solid and informative and entertaining. And to all my friends out there who are doing, becoming interacting with, I wish you all the luck too in what you're doing, all the best in what you're doing. I look forward to speaking to you guys again soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's Saturday. Enjoy it. Hold someone, hug someone, love someone. Till the next time, it's PB signing off for now. Take care of everybody. Bye bye.